Then I'll press the record button and we'll say, yo, what up?
Alrighty.
How's it going, man? How's life? How's
Going
life
good.
treating you?
Going quite good. I've been feeling, pretty good. I did way better than I expected to at Origins, so I'm feeling
Ooh.
really happy about that. Third place in one of the provisionals, 16th at the regional. For my first ever major event, couldn't ask to do better than that.
Tight. How sick, dude. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, man.
You're very welcome. All right, so let's chat about this Cementos Cop. Does this stand for competitive?
Yes, this stands for competitive. This is actually the deck that I placed with the provisional and the regional with.
I see. So Cementos coming in hot. I know nothing, like absolutely nothing about Origins. I just don't know anything. So, hit me with what you got going on. Hit me with the elevator pitch, and I'm gonna toss some stuff into the sideboard. See what's up.
Yeah. So I just kind of fell in love with Cementos when I saw his character, and I really wanted to make him work. And no one's been able to really top with him before Origins. So I was like, I need to figure this character out. And I realized that people were doing weird things, so I went kind of a different route with this character. A lot of people were going insanely big on the decks, but I thought that was kind of a mistake. So what I figured would work better for Cementos was a much leaner deck. I mean, 64 is still big, but for a character that can become 8 or 9 hand size is leaner than what a lot of other decks might do.
Right.
And so the idea was go really lean and then go really attack heavy, which we can get away with because both overhead reversal and haymaker can build. And Cementos basically says as long as you have a face-up foundation, every single attack is one difficulty lower because you can always re-ready something.
Right.
So those were the two principles that the deck was built behind, which caused me to make some weird choices. I ran very aggressive, 25 attacks in a 64 card deck. And the other thing is I went super spam heavy. This final build had 16 zero diffs in it out of 35 total foundations.
Love that.
Because the idea is I never want Haymaker or Reversal to be offline.
Right.
So the more zero diffs I have in my discard, the better. And the reason I can get away with that is because since Cementos is flipping everything face down anyways, the majority of your foundations, what they do on the field, don't really matter.
Right.
Because unless they have a flip effect themselves that are really useful, they're not going to stay face up for long, so repeatable effects don't really matter in this deck.
Yeah, I mean that makes total sense to me. That makes total sense to me. Man, 4 title, 4 battle resolve. Yeah, this looks cool. I think the only thing that we'll take it one step at a time. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'll go ahead and toss a couple things into our sideboard here. When we look at stats, we're at 64. Is this number allowed to get any bigger or smaller? Do I got to keep it at a hard 64?
It can get a little bigger, but I want to keep the percentage of attacks to foundations roughly equivalent, and I don't really want to get above 70, so you've got about 6 cards room to play with.
Perfect. I didn't even want to go that far. I was like thinking like 66 to 62. That was
that is totally
range,
fine.
is what I was looking at. Okay, so the first things that I added in were new training method. This card's messed up. This card's insane. I don't know what we're allowed to mess around with just because of the fact that we have so many high blocks as is. Are we playing Harden? We are not playing
Harden was in my original list, but I cut it because of how many high blocks I was already running, and its repeatable effect didn't matter for me, really.
Right. I almost want to take out these 4 super rejuvenations for training method. It lets you build faster early so that you can keep flipping and continuing, right? And then it lets you draw a card, a foundation that you want to then block better, and like keep playing this big crazy wide string, as opposed to like eventually, because you have got such a big hand size, you're just gonna be blocking everything anyways. This is only good for the early, and early new training method is just better for you, genuinely, because it will get you to a bigger stage so that you can start flipping to then increase that hand size.
Okay, I see the idea. So the idea is that, when I get into my turn 2, I draw up 5 cards. If I don't draw enough gray, but I play an attack, check a gray, I get to commit and flip new training method, add that to my hand, lets me build more later on.
Correct. And if you want to, right, because then he ready the face down, right? it's face down. You can flip a ready foundation and then kick this guy back ready. You don't have to do like it's still got stuff going on.
I really like that. Here's the question: is it better to replace Super Regen with that or Apathetic with that?
So the other option that we can do, right, is if you are chill with it, right, we could take and drop Apathetic down to a 3 of, we could drop Super Rejuvenation down to a 2 of, and then jam in 3 new training methods and probably feel fine.
Yeah, let's do that right now.
Keeps our numbers the same, and then this still feels relevant. I think Apathetic is nuts, and because we've dropped it down to a 4 of, like, think about how many times that you like just flipped a really relevant piece. This is probably the best Earth card in the game. Probably like that selective, that touch. It's so good. Yeah. It's so good. I mean, the reason it's a 2/4, right?
Okay. Yeah. Hold on.
The other things that I saw were Trishik Cape. Being able to sling back your naval laser beams in deadlock might just be good enough to make this worth, as well as enhance unflip committed foundations. So you get to unflip your Apathetics, your Manly Passionates, your Super Rejuvenations, your new training methods, and then just like keep pushing this out. It does not help your hand size, so this card sucks early. Like, it's really bad early, but as soon as you become a 6 hand size character, this card becomes worth it. And so, like, you don't want to see it on turn 2, you don't want to see it on turn 1, turn 2, but turn 3 onwards, I think this card has some real value in your deck, because it lets you keep it does say that you have one face up card, right, when you need it, when you want it.
So put it as maybe a 1 of for now?
I think a 1 of would be perfect. And I don't know if we want to go much further increasing our numbers here.
No, because I think I'll get a position where I'm struggling to draw 3 foundations on my first turn if I go higher.
Correct. I agree completely. And then the last cards that I added in were just low blocks, right? Because our low blocks are a little suspect here. You are playing the 4 You're So Obvious, which is a good-ass card for sure. But it's possible that, like, maybe we can slot in 2 Glamorous somewhere in order to make up for this. And that does a very similar job to Trachy Cape. It makes it feel really good to build down with Manly Passionate guy, rebuy back Manly Passionate, and then continue rocking it.
And it is a guaranteed flip. There are a couple of... I don't have a problem with the idea, although there are a couple of cards that I end up wondering for that might be good as well for looking at low blocks. Where is... what do you think of Childhood Friends in the deck?
What are our symbols? Earth Void? Yeah, that looks great. That one...
Every single Kirishima card attack.
We have good...
Which is a breaker 1 on a chop.
It'd be a 1 of? It'd be a 1 of because there's only 11 targets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get the chop, the frenzy, and then the jabs. Yeah.
Does the other ability on this card work? Question mark.
Discard the top 2 after your powerful attack is blocked. I don't run anything with powerful.
Okay, so that right there says that I don't necessarily want to play it.
Okay.
I think that, like, if we're gonna do that, Glamorous is just a better card because it helps us.
Okay.
It helps us, like, because obviously I've not played as much Cementos as you, so please correct me. At some point, your staging area stops doing things, right? It just becomes a big face-down mess, and this lets you, at bare minimum, try and continue to, like, revitalize that stage. Because, like, at no point should you become an 8-hander and feel like you aren't winning the game, right? Sometimes the card text on your table matters, right? And I think that's the biggest issue with Cementos is, like, he's hoping to draw more attacks and have more face-down foundations to commit and pass, right? Mm-hmm. But this just lets us buy back our foundations. Things like the new training method, things like Super Rejuvenation, things like Manly Passionate Guy, in order to continue to, like, play the game. So I want to find room for double, if not triple Glamorous. I think like, if we find 3 Glamorous and then we figure out what to do with the rest of this stuff, I think that we would be feeling good.
I think
we just got to cut 2 cards, and I think
one thing we can cut, because it's very low impact for me, because I don't like repeatable effects. Mm-hmm. I did not like aiming for number 1 very often in this deck. So now I have to think from there because that was the only one I was very confident in going.
I think the answer is one battle resolve, actually. And
so drop us down to 15.
Drop us
zero
down
diffs?
to 15 zero diffs. So you're at slightly less than half, right?
Yeah.
And the reason is this card's getting flipped for your character anyways. You'll never get 4 copies.
Yeah.
And you're playing 8 copies of a way to bring it back in?
Here's the question of what's more impactful here, because I actually agree cutting a 0 diff might be the right call.
Mm-hmm.
Which one's more impactful to cut? Because Battle Resolve, it also is a mini super regen in my character. It regains 1 health when I take damage.
Right.
Is that going to be more impactful on average than Internship with Best Genius, where my opponent flips anything of their choice?
It is probably Internship. Yeah, let's just do Internship just because, like, that's theory, but I think both of these cards are very blank. So they're the same card in my boat of they are 2 cards that don't do shit.
The only reason I prefer Battle Resolve is if my opponent is only playing 1 attack on me on a turn, I can Battle Resolve on the first attack and get another face down to hopefully become a 6-hander by my turn 2.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love that. That makes total sense.
So everything I've agreed with so far, yeah.
The only other thing that I could possibly look at adding into your deck, we already talked about new training method, is just maybe find some low blocks on your attacks. Merciless Rush is a good one because it says printed hand size. And even though you are scaling up to your 6, 7, 8 hand size character, you are a printed 5 hand size. And so it is a 4 diff that gets really big that if they full block it, stuff happens. It's also a 1 low block, and then Instant Shining Flash just needs to be in your sideboard at bare minimum. It's better than Creeping Vine Eruption. 1 for the low block, 2 for stuffing the momentum, getting that out of there.
Gotcha. I actually had another question in the same vein when I'm looking at my attack line, because there are a few attacks that were low impact for me in the main deck.
Mm-hmm.
And by a few, I mean mainly 1. Creeping Vine felt kind of weird in the main deck, especially with only 2 Faith Shield in the main deck.
Yeah.
Because when in early game, because it's the only true 5 diff in the deck besides maybe Naval Laser Beam. I mean, I get to ready anything else, but it made it hard to play because I don't want to play at the beginning of a chain if I have a Haymaker or Chop in hand. Those usually want to be my beginning of the chain cards.
Yeah.
And later in the chain, it became really difficult to play. And if I didn't have Faith Shield, it basically said blank and throw. The only other card I was thinking of to replace it, though, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, is High Engine Kick.
Discard for more speed?
Discard for more speed, so it's harder to block, which means when I pump damage to it, kind of going the Nomu logic here of, can make it really hard to block and do a lot of damage. And it's also a +1 mid block.
What'd you lose to?
What did I lose to? That's a good question. So Tokoyami was probably my single biggest problem.
Okay.
I
think Tokoyami beats Cementos 9 out of 10 times, so I think that's okay.
I agree. Luckily, both times were a 2-1, but yeah, it's a rough matchup. Jiro is pretty rough, which actually gets into a couple of cards that might go in the sideboard that I want to bring up with you on thoughts on, but we'll get to those. But Jiro was pretty rough. Oh, what else did I lose to? I lost to an All Might 3, but that was actually 100% just I misplayed because literally I played the wrong card, and if I played the correct one, he would have died. But that matchup was pretty 50-50. What
do you fight any, besides the Jiro, do you fight any air decks?
Did I fight any air decks?
And then did you fight Mineta at all?
Oh, I fought Mineta with this deck. Mineta 2 doesn't scare me even slightly with this deck.
Nice.
It's way too slow, and it basically any deck that I found that any mid to slow deck, mid-range to slow deck, Cementos has a pretty easy time with, because if you get to 7 hand size plus 3 damage on every attack, that is just near impossible for decks to deal with.
Right. That makes sense.
Especially if I get to 8 hand size plus 4 or 5 damage, it's almost always a win. So
I want you just to mainboard this Instant Shining Flash. That's what I want out of this.
Okay, so someone else suggested this to me. I want to be convinced on this because I've been very hesitant towards it because I look at it and I say, what does this do for me? Is it just the low block?
It's a low block, and momentum is such a powerful resource right now. Like, it's so crazy. Think about how good your Naval Laser Beam being able to unflip 2 of your resources is. Think about how
Sure.
good the EX is on your Haymaker, right?
Mhm.
I think that there's so much. I mean, like it says you mollywop Mineta more. It says that when your opponent has a 0 gravity lift, right? If they poke you with 0 gravity and then they build 3 foundations and pass and they're ready to pop off next turn and throw double 0 gravity lift. No, they didn't have the 0 gravity lift. You have to set up again, right? You have to set up a second time, right? The only momentum that you got was a 0 gravity lift. It's gone. And so, like, the block after you play this card, they discard momentum, is tough to pull off. But when you do, it's such a shock out of nowhere. And also, this card says flip a foundation, and your next one gets -1 difficulty, right? Like, you can, versus, I'll keep bringing it up. You said you don't have an issue with it, but, like the play, right, in the life decks is you open instant Shining Flash, and you strip Mineta's 1 or 2 momentum, right? And then you flip your foundation and say that your back alley Haymaker is still on a 5 div. Because it is -1 difficulty, +1 with your progressive. And so, like, you don't have to windmill slam your Haymaker first.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Here's my question: is Shining Flash gonna do so? To talk about another area where I struggled deck, the reason I was leaning towards High Engine Kick was I would end up, especially on turn 2, with like a Haymaker in hand or an overhead reversal in hand with no 0 diffs in the discard. But I would draw into one of my 0 diffs. So the idea is High Engine Kick discards that 0 diff, then overhead or Haymaker builds it in. Is that more impactful for me? Is that better for me than what the Instinct Shining Flash gets me?
I love that.
I don't know.
I love that. In this exact scenario, you ready? So you've pitched me that scenario. I'm gonna do the exact copy of your deck. I've now played Instant Shining Flash as my first move, and I don't have the 0 diff. I flip Instant Shining Flash. My next one gets -1 difficulty. I then play Back Alley Haymaker, and I check that 0 instead, and then I build it in. So as opposed to drawing it,
Well, I'm not talking about drawing the 0 diff. I'm talking about I drew 5 cards. One of my 5 cards was a 0 diff.
Yeah.
And then
So just build it. Draw a bonus card. Who cares? I know you want to build. Just draw, and then you'll draw another foundation, and then continue to build.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this card. I think you should at least try it, right? I think if you're not feeling it, even you're ready. So here's the real spice, brother. We're gonna put it at 1 of, and then we'll put Instant Shining Flash at a 2 of, and see how you feel about it. Not a kill card. This card still has tactics going on with Face Shield. It's still a throw, so if you see it early game, you pick up Face Shield. You don't die on turn 4. If you see it late, hey, this is a 2 for 13. Catch? Yep. Question mark?
Are you saying 2 Eruption and 1 Shining Flash, or 2 Shining Flash, 1 Eruption?
2 Shining Flash, 1 Eruption was my plan.
Okay.
It also is going to push your low blocks up to 17, which I'm pretty sure we started at like 13. Whatever.
Yeah, we started at 12.
Started at 12. Okay, so
I had no low blocks in this deck.
5 more. That is 5 more low blocks. So hopefully, Indiscriminate Shock does not absolutely murder you.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, I'm willing to try anything. Like I said, you know.
If this Creeping Vine Eruption doesn't work, you can either slot in the other Instant Shining Flash, or you can play Merciless Rush. And if you draw Merciless Rush early and they don't know your deck list, they have not watched this video. First off, after the match, please give them the link. Second, if you play Merciless Rush on like turn 2, game 1, they're going to be holding a high block for Merciless Rush for the rest of the game. Because they're not allowed. They have to block it, right? They're going to be nervous about 4 difficulty, 4 high, 4 at minimum 7s, right? Like if it's blocked, they destroy a foundation. You're going to outpace them even more because like you're snowballing your ability. And so like if this card you still feel like it's not giving, if it's feeling lackluster, go ahead and try the Merciless Rush for the mix up, or maybe even toss in the other Hardened Chop, right? It's another low that they don't want to block. Right? This card's probably just going to be a better value than what you got for Creeping Vine Eruption, both early and late.
Yeah. Okay. I like what you're describing here. I think that is a very good idea. Now, what do the addition? Question is, do the additional vines go in the side deck for the Faith Shields?
I don't think so. I think you're gonna. I mean, we're watching Hatsume's play like 2, maybe 3x of this card, and also a 5-hand size character, and then you get to see Cementos become a 7-hand size character, just like Hatsume, right? Just on 3 different symbols. Yeah. Like this, Cementos and Hatsume have very, very much the same energy. The thing about Hatsume is she gets to keep her stage if she wants it. She's flipping it all the time because she's slamming that damage on stuff. But if she wants to keep her stage face up, she can. Cementos does not have the luxury of doing so, but his damage is more free? Question mark? I don't know. It's weird.
The upside to Cementos is damage more free. He becomes a 7-hander. I've actually had games where like he becomes a 7-hander faster than May would because of how much I free build in with Haymaker.
Right.
And then the other thing is May does end up kind of with a cap on damage. Cementos really doesn't.
Right.
I had one game where it was a Cementos mirror, funnily enough, where I wound up with 15 face down foundations, became a 10-hander that was doing +7 damage on every attack.
Okay.
Which was the funniest game I've ever had.
And you decked out? Is that what happened? Or
no.
What went on there?
Like +7 damage on throws.
Yeah.
Like the guy who doesn't have throw hate, they die. That's just what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Lose the game. Okay, so some cards I wanted to bring up real quick though.
Pause.
Yeah.
Instant Shiny Flash is a range. It also triggers off of the Deadlock of Trishy Cape.
Ooh, that's actually kind of spicy. I like that. Okay.
Continue.
Okay, you know what? You're selling me on the Shining Flash. I'm definitely going to experiment with it. Good. Here is the 2 cards that I keep wanting to put in because they do really powerful stuff. Mm-hmm. But then I'm also dealing with the fact that I remember that Cementos isn't allowed to have a stage. Those 2 cards are... So the first one's Learning the Standards, which I feel like almost has to go in the side deck, if not the main deck, with May as prevalent as she is.
Agreed.
But I don't know if it's worth it to put it in the main deck because it's a 2 difficulty +3 mid block, but it does have really good effects on it, especially if I'm against May, where it reduces May's hand size.
So if we take this Creeping Vine Eruption out of your sideboard because it's cringe, and we take the Creeping Vine Eruption out of your main board because it's cringe, and we put in the Hardened Chop, you've got 2 slots in your sideboard for those 2 Learning the Standards.
Probably 3 because I actually think Plus Ultra is not that good in my sideboard.
3 it is. It's either that, or you can maybe even put in like another Trishy Cape for stuff.
Maybe, but I think Learning the Standards gives me such a momentum push against decks like May that I want to experiment with having it in there.
For sure.
At least as a 3 of, if not finding 1 extra slot in the main deck. Okay, but the other card I was dealing with, what was the other card called? I think it's Final Exam Failures.
Oh,
That's it. Final Exam Failures. Do I run that in this deck? It's a +2 high block. It was the thing I was actually borderline replacing Apathetic for, because it's basically, or Super Regen for. It's at minimum I see you shaking your head on stream.
Yeah,
it's
don't do that.
Done 1, 2, 3,
right.
or pop 1.
Yeah.
That also dodges It Can't Be Fixed or Most Stun Hate.
Right. No. I don't think that card's very good in your deck.
You don't think it's good?
Truly, I don't think that card's very good in general.
Really?
Yeah. I think that card is so mid. It's feast or famine, really. The difference between, I think that card is crazy for so the best I've ever seen that card was a 4th kind deck here in Omaha. Big shout outs to Brandon Bueno. Please clip this, send it to him. Was playing against Mark Tyner. Shout outs, clip it, send it to him. And it was like Ida 1 versus 4th kind. 4th kind builds 2 of those on 1. Ida builds to 6, and then that card was the thing that committed out the last 2 cards, right? And it was on turn 2 or whatever. And so he just slammed it on turn 2 and was like really aggressive and got that last 2 when it matters on the world's biggest push. It's just not good as like spot removal, because I'll just commit the card when it's late game and not care. I'll blow up the card if it's late game and not care. I'll never commit the 3 for it. You'll just destroy the foundation. That's fine. And that's only really effective on like turn 2, maybe turn 3. Like maybe turn 3 if I'm playing like a bonobo and I'm just swinging orange cards. But like anybody who's like if you take any of those life decks that are going and running against you, that card is like just not very good, I don't think. I just don't think that card's very good because like, yeah, man, I'll commit my 1 resource and I'll blow it up with with whatever. Right?
Gotcha. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just really, really feast or famine. When it's good, it's absolutely insane, and when it's even, it's mid. Even just mid, it feels bad. 100%. Feast or famine. I think that Super Gen you're going to just get more value out of staying alive. That extra 3 health, being currently a 36 health character, maybe more with things like Trashy Cape and Glamorous, letting you unflip this or having better targeted like target flip is better than they get to destroy one of their cringe face downs. Who cares?
Sure.
I'll destroy a face down every day. I don't need face downs. You do. And so I think that card's just also. We don't need high blocks. If we needed high blocks, we could maybe talk about it. We don't need high blocks.
That's
if that card had a low block, we could actually have a conversation about it. We don't need high blocks.
Mm-hmm.
We're good.
Here's my so I don't want to take up too much of your time.
You're good. You're so good. You're the one that's time crunch, not me.
So there were a few more cards that I was kind of considering. I'm going through the list in my head to make sure I don't miss any.
For sure.
For context, I built this deck literally without my deck list that I actually had been working on Cementos for because I didn't have it at Origins because I left the deck list at home on my desktop. And so I literally made this deck with just like memory on what to do.
Wow.
So I know a lot of this stuff was not optimized. Card that I thought was only mid in how it played out, but I'm not sure what to place it with because it is a 1 diff. Manly Passionate Guy felt mid way more than you would think it should have because I wanted to get it face down faster than I would have a foundation in hand to block with it. So often I would wind up flipping it for no effect with Cementos. And I don't know if there's a better replacement for it that might do something more with its flip effect or on the board. There may not be, but it was the one card that I felt the most mid on when I was playing.
So I'm gonna flip the script on you. I'm gonna turn your cat around. I think that you just have hidden text on your Manly Passionate guys that say that I'm allowed to flip this to ready a card, where everybody else is pining to use this card to block and build. Where you go, oh wait. I can do this if that is the best option, but its main mode should be to then build and continue to pop off, right? Especially with something like Glamorous. Glamorous Manly Passionate Guy feels like cheating, dude. It feels so sick. It's cheating. So as opposed to, oh man, I keep flipping my Manly Passionate Guys, be like, oh wow, I'm allowed to flip my Manly Passionate Guys and feel good about it. I think that's the mindset you should have, as opposed to like, yeah, 2 ability Manly seems dope. That's 100%. And that's every card that you have, right? Like, especially these lame ones like Internship and Battle Resolve and Tight-Lipped.
Or one of the ones that actually came up the most was Forcing Surrender. It being able to flip itself for free just said become plus 1/3 of hand size was something that Forcing Surrender often wound up doing for me.
Right. Do you have any combos?
I really... no, I don't play any combos. The only one I could play is Texas Smash, but that would require me to go more heavy on punches. Not worth it.
Agreed. Agreed, totally.
So I'm trying to think if there's anything else in the deck that really wasn't working for me. But here's the question though with Manly Passionate. Does it justify making a 3-up to put in one what's in the main? Learning the standards in the main?
No.
You don't think so?
Nope. I think you need a low blocks, man.
Fair.
I think low blocks are just too important.
That's fair.
I think and I think learning the standards feels really good in some matchups and really bad in the other ones, and I think learning the standards might be really bad in the actually. So you lost to Jiro, you lost to Bird, right? And so
Jiro and lost to Bird, which are 2 ones that learning the standards is really, really good against.
It can be, right? Sometimes when you force your opponent to play that non-attack card, it's really good versus Bird. It's crazy versus Bird, which we just slam 3 into the versus Bird, right? I think it's not that great versus Jiro because, like, she just, like, looks at it on the board and looks at her hand and goes, well, I can pass one of these, and then I know I can pass the rest of them. So I'll just slam this card, and now all my stuff gets an extra +1/+1. Okay, I'm sure.
Where I like it into Jiro is when they're going for the home run comet kill. They've stacked their deck, and you force them to unstack their deck.
By playing 2 things?
One thing, just learning the standards, right?
Yeah, learning the standards says so they stack their deck. They auto pass the thing that they're gonna have, and now it's random off the top because they drew the card.
Yeah. It's random off the top and one more difficulty because that was how I lost to the Jiro that at the provisionals that put me in third place instead of running for first or second was they went double specialized sound waves, and on their second specialized sound waves, they put home run comet, stacked a 6, drew the home run comet, and then they committed out off the 6 check to play the home run comet.
Do you think that you'll have the patience to wait for that play? If you think you've got 6,000 IQ and can make that play, then I agree with you. I think that sounds really good. What I'm afraid of is the other times where you panic and you slam that card and like, play another one, and they go, okay, and kill you for it. So here's the final consensus for that. I think that is a beautiful line of thinking, and I'm gonna take the next 30 seconds to say, I love your line of thinking, and I think that it is good enough that you should look at it. I can't tell you definitively Manly Passionate Guy is a 64% better card than whatever in the main board. I can't do that. What I can tell you is that you will not be sideboarding any Manly Passionate Guys. I don't believe that that's a sideboard card. You've already got your low blocks slotted with You're So Obvious. So maybe the answer is, versus those decks, what you do is you slot out one of your Manly Passionate Guys. Like, that's one of the cards that come out in those decks in order to throw the 3 cards in, right?
Except game 1, I'm taking the risk that I just get blown out and don't draw that, and then maybe run Learning Standard in the sideboard enough that like I can handle it in those matchups.
Right.
Okay.
And I think it's just going to take testing and actually like trying to figure out and massage and polish your sideboard. And like,
you're telling me I have to actually practice?
Yuck, I know, gross. Massage and polish your sideboard and figure out like what your checklist is of in this matchup versus this symbol, this character symbol. I take out this, put in this. Now that's my 9 times out of 10 game plan, and then I make that last bit of adjustment in the moment. Oh, I noticed they're not playing this; they are playing this type of stuff.
I agree with it. And one thing that while we were talking, I kind of realized is I think Manly Passionate Guy is actually going to be better in my deck now that we put in 3 new training method, because I pick up a good if I check a foundation on a block like an attack block, and I pick up that foundation. They attack again, I now block with that and build in with Manly Passionate Guy.
These 2 cards are so messed up with Manly Passionate Guy. They're so nuts, dude.
So now we put in those
actually
3.
Crazy. Not to mention, you're ready, set, go on turn 1, right? You slam down 2 cards, one of which is a new training method, and then you slam an extra card out of your hand. You got 4 cards out of your hand going first or going second. And then just rip back into it like there's your +1 hand size. You already have it built. And then you build 4 pass. And one of which you checked a foundation, so you committed and flipped the new training method to draw it, and then you hold 2 blocks or whatever. Like there's so much that this little combo does. Like these 4 cards are the reason that the Earth symbol is so nuts right now. They're so good. Is Manly Passionate, new training method, ready, set, go, glamorous. The thing is you get new training, glamorous, ready, set, go, all on the life symbol as well. And so, like, normally there's just better life characters, but, like, we don't have the life symbol. So we just have to make do.
Okay, I think I like everything as it is in the main deck right now.
Yeah.
Can we take the last little time we have and make sure the side deck has, like, 10 cards in it, even if it's not 100% certain?
For
if
sure.
You're down for that?
This is gone. 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 Refresh. We've got 11 cards because we tossed in learning. Okay, so we're going to take it. We're going to put 3 here, and then we're going to take out this Creeping Vine because you'll never sideboard into it. We will take out this Plus Ultra because you said you did not like it, and we'll take out this Hardened Chop because you will never sideboard into it. And then we've got 10. And then if you wanted to get crazy with it, you could drop the Hardened Chop for another, or sorry, drop the Creeping for either a Chop or the Instant Shining Flash and feel good. And then, if you wanted to, you could keep your triple Learning the Standards in the sideboard and drop a Manly Passionate Guy for a Learning in the main board.
Here's my final question, because I like everything I'm looking at right now. What do you think is better? 3 You're So Obvious, 4 Learning, 4 You're So Obvious, 3 Learning?
4 You're So Obvious.
You think so?
Yep, because I think it's going to be better in more matchups than Learning is.
Makes sense.
I think it'll just be more relevant, as well as it is also covering our low block deficiency. And so, like, if we need to have those low blocks, we just slam up to 4 face shield, and then the You're So Obvious, and then let it rock.
In case I play like a Lomu who's trying to go all low, flood me out,
100%.
or Sero. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. As well as things like indiscriminate shock. Like, your goal is to have 1,000 foundations, and if they can commit all those 1,000 foundations, you're just gonna get shocked to death. Like an Ochako under Chaos, right? Like, selectively just absolutely ripping your stage apart of like commit, and then like shock into shock into shock, right? Like that, or like you push really hard, and the only thing that you have back up is the You're So Obvious. You get to stop one of those, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, I like everything that's in here. I'm trying to think if there's anything I would change. I don't think so. The only thing is I am going to experiment with Shining Flash versus Merciless Rush, because I don't know if the Momentum Hate or the Pseudo Throw is going to be more impactful for me. And both fill the low block deficiency. Aside from that, I like everything else I'm looking at right now.
I can tell you with 100% certainty, if you told me that I had to play Cementos at the next event that I went to, I would play this exact list with Creeping Vine out and 4th Chop in. I would play this exact list. There is not a combination of cards under the Earth symbol that I would play differently.
Okay.
Maybe put a 4th Apathetic back in the sideboard. But it really depends on in testing how much I need this 4th face shield versus the 3rd learning versus the 4th You're So Obvious. Like, this card is correct in every deck that plays it. And so like maybe that spot hate is just good enough. But this is the list that I would play. I think this list is really, really good, man.
Yeah, I like everything I'm seeing. So I don't think there's a card I would change on here. What's our deck count? Is it 66 right now?
66 big ones.
66 with 1 more foundation and 1 more non-foundation.
Asset.
Well, yeah, the non-foundation. So, because I guess you build the assets as well. So, yeah, I like everything here. I mean, I'll have to experiment a little bit with it. Probably next time you have games, I'll just run this deck and see how it goes.
For sure.
But yeah, thanks for the help, man. I think I like everything that's here.
Well, you're very welcome, man. Thank you for the support over on Patreon. And let me shoot you the list, okay?
Yeah. Thanks, man. Catch you later.
You as well. Peace.